Alrighty, this is a video I've been wanting to make for a little while. Finally remembered ahead of time to film this. I'm going to be rebuilding this 1-inch brass valve. I'm not rebuilding in the sense that I'm taking all this apart and replacing the little seals and everything. I've done that before, and I really found it to be really not the best value for the client. It doesn't really work out for me because the time it takes to take an old one of these apart, strip it down, replace all the little rubber seals and O-rings, and then reassemble it takes a long time, or a decent amount of time. And then you still have, I'll show you on the new one, the bleed screws. On any old brass valve, I would never try to loosen this bleed screw because they have probably 80% chance of breaking off inside there. And so if you're just rebuilding it, you're going to either have to try to deal with that or just leave the old bleed screw. So again, I just decided I'm not offering that level of rebuilding. What I do is I'm going to replace the actuator, has a brand new solenoid, completely new, and then for there's a float under here. Buy this little repair kit. You have to make sure you're buying a 1-inch or a 3/4 depending on what you have, and it comes with a new float and the seal for underneath that cap right here. And you definitely want to do that because these rubber seals, as they dry up and get old, and then also like out here, a lot of hard water will build up on them. When the system comes on, it pushes this float up against this cap, and when this seal is bad or there's too much hard water built up on it, it won't seal completely, so a lot of water just to spill out of here while it's running. So I do that as part of it. First, I'm going to take off the cap right here for the backflow. I used to use, so I have this piece of rebar I use to support this, to keep it from moving while I break everything free. I used to use like a flat pry bar, but I wanted a little bit more leverage, so I got a piece of this. I think it's like about 2 feet long. And then I have this big pair of channel locks. Again, you don't necessarily need it. I used to do it with this smaller pair of channel locks, but this with the long handles, it gives me better leverage. And then also, especially on the 1-inch, this bigger one really fits on that cap a lot better. All right. I'm a little dyslexic sometimes, so I have to remind myself which way I need to place my support piece. So for loosening it, I'm going to put this piece of rebar in my right hand, run it through there. I have it up against the metal here and here, and then I'm going to grab my crescent wrench, my channel locks, and then at the same time as trying to break this free, I'm going to provide some counter force, just enough to get this broke free. There we go. I mean, it's hard to keep it from not moving at all, but the idea is not, just enough to not break anything while you're doing this. I'll get this old one off. And this one was leaking. You can see the hard water start to build up on there, and then the seal starts to get harder and doesn't seal as well. Alright, so I am going to remove this old red seal, and sometimes it could be on there pretty good, so you have to use like a blade of a razor blade to kind of loosen them. I try not to scratch this sealing surface up too much, just make sure that there isn't any chunks of left behind seal. Okay. And then take your new one, place it over the cap, new float. I'm gonna set it on here for now. When it actually comes time to install this, sometimes it doesn't want to fit back in with the float on there. And then another thing, this doesn't always happen, but where this little stud here, where this anti-siphon float sticks onto, I get hard water built up on it, and it doesn't allow it to move freely. So I'm gonna try to get that cleaned up so that way it'll function the way it's supposed to. For this, actually, I'm gonna grab. Alright, I'm doing a lot of stuff off camera, but I don't have a tripod with me. I'm just got my phone leaned up against my work bag, so I'm gonna get a little piece of sandpaper in here and clean this up. Better, I'll just do a tiny bit more, but see how much easier it moves now. We want that to move freely so it could make a proper seal when the system comes on. Alright. Let's clean up the sealing surface on this a little bit. Usually they're pretty clean as long as there's no left behind chunks, because the seal is sitting there, keeps it from any crap building up. And then next, we got the actuator. Oh, one other thing, this one's missing the nut, but usually I'll loosen the nut and just take the solenoid off there. That way I could leave the wires connected. I am going to cut this off so I could connect the new one, but in the meantime I could just take it off, take it out of my way, and then still know which wires go to the new one because it's still connected. So let's get out of my way. And get that piece of rebar in there to support it. Open these channel locks up with just a pinch. Provide that backing. Oh man, this one's on tight. I'll get better leverage. I get a little better. There we go. Okay, you got the old actuator, and then you don't have to remove the seal from this because the new actuator comes with one. And one thing I do when I'm at the supply house and I'm buying this stuff is I just make sure that it does have the seal, because then, you know, it could get accidentally taken off or forgotten at the factory. So I'm gonna get my vacuum and try to clean out. There's just a little bit of that brass shavings that fell down in there. I mean, they're really small and they probably would just get stuck in the filters for the sprinklers, but try to get as much out as I can. There's only a couple little pieces. And then for the new one, you don't really have to do this, but makes it a little easier if you take the new solenoid off. just so you don't have those wires in your way when you go to put the new one on. So you grab the new seal, kind of just rotate it until it pops down. I like to try to keep the seal centered as much as I can, because as you start to tighten it, sometimes it'll push the seal around and it'll kind of hang out one side more than the other. I don't think it would really affect its sealing abilities, but I just like to try to keep it centered. Okay, so now when you're tightening, you're going to put the backing tool, whatever you're using, on the opposite side. Get these locked on there. Put some counter pressure to tighten this. I try to get these pretty tight because these seals are very thin. They hold up to the heat very well, but they're very thin. So I've had times where I've got it what I thought was really tight, but when I turned it on, it had a little bit of like pin-sized water spraying out. So I like to get those really tight. I don't have to worry about that. Okay, so your actuator is kind of reverse as taking it off. The new actuator has to go on first, and then we could place the new float in there. Again, sometimes, like I said, it's easier to do that. You try to do it with it on there. See, this one does fit. If not, it doesn't fit all in one like that. Just drop this the plunger in there. I'm sorry, the float. And then when you go to set the cap on there, and like I said, there's that post. That post just goes inside the float. Just get this hand tightened. Open up the channel locks. Put the support piece in there. Nice and tight as we can without accidentally breaking anything. And so you don't have to worry about the placement of like where your solenoid is going to end up, unless it bothers you. But it doesn't really matter. So you just tighten it down until it's good and tight. Put the solenoid back on. Retaining nut. And I like to face the solenoid, the wires coming at the back, towards where they're gonna connect to the wires going to the timer. Alrighty, probably not the cleanest video. Like I said, I've been wanting to make it for a while. Hopefully it'll help somebody. I was gonna say, just a little bit of what I'm doing today. This is a 3/4 inch with a pressure reducer. I got those installed first because they were getting cut and glued. I like to do all that first. That way it has the amount of time the cement needs to cure before I turn the water on. So I get that stuff done first, and then go to doing all my cleanup and everything else while that glue, the cement is curing. Alrighty, thank you.